Welcome back to part two. If you haven't listened to part one of my conversation with Kirk Martin yet, hit that pause button and go listen. Seriously, it's a must. In part one, we dove into what makes strong willed kids so unique, why traditional discipline doesn't work, and how managing our own emotions as parents is actually the secret weapon to raising them. Today, we're picking up right where we left off and getting into the how. How do we set those limits without the constant battles? How do we guide these kids without squashing their independence? And let's be real, how do we hold firm without losing our minds? And speaking of holding firm, if setting boundaries with your kids, with your partner at work, or even with yourself feels impossible, I've got you covered. My Boundaries Made Simple freebie will help you create those boundaries that actually stick without the guilt. So grab your copy in the show notes and let's dive into today's part two. Are you feeling overwhelmed trying to juggle all the many hats you wear as a working mom? Do you want more quality time with your family without distraction of work and time alone to take care of yourself and your needs? Welcome to Mom Wife Career Life. I'm Kerri, a wife, mom of three, and a recovering perfectionist. In this podcast, I will teach you how to create balance in your life by implementing healthy habits, organizing your home and your schedule, being intentional with your time and in your relationships, and most importantly, how to start putting your needs first because no one can pour from an empty cup. Grab that second cup of coffee, or if you're anything like me, your third. It's time to dive into today's episode of Mom Wife Career Life. With us this week is CelebrateCalm.com founder and Calm Parenting podcast host, Kirk Martin, who has shown 1 million parents how to stop the yelling, stop the defiance, and most importantly, stop those power struggles with the most strong-willed children. Kirk is known for his very practical strategies and scripts delivered with not only humor, but with compassion too. So we're jumping right back into where we left off yesterday. You said about not making eye contact. Another way that I've found that helps sometimes is talking to them in the car because we're both kind of looking forward. No one has to make eye contact. We get distracted by certain things going on outside. So that's a really good tip of just coloring because my girls love to color. I'm sure my son will, as he's getting older, his will get stronger. I'm starting to see that change in
I
him
hope
too.
so.
Although I was
Look,
like, maybe he'll
driving
be my perfect one.
and then he'll annoy you in some other way.
Yes.
He'll bring out something else that you don't realize that you have to work on, right? Like, because that's what our kids do. They're like the best therapists because they like push all these buttons you didn't know you had. And then it's like, I'm the successful corporate executive, but my daughter rolls her eyes and I freak out, right? But real quickly, the driving in the car, going for a walk, you know what a great one with teenagers is? It's a little bit odd, but I like odd stuff. Going out with them later at night, like on a weeknight at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock when it's dark, like, hey, do you want to run up and get a smoothie? You want to grab a couple tacos? I used to have the best conversations with my son. It was dark. We're driving in the car. We're eating. Like it creates this different environment. Going for a walk later at night. Are you going for a walk at 9:30? Well, then we don't have to look at each other and you can talk into space. Or with little kids, it is down on the floor building with Legos. Now there's no eye contact. Hey, could you give me a red one? Let's build a spaceship. And then when they're relaxed, you can say, hey, you know what just happened in the kitchen where you called me that name or hit your brother? I know that you know that was wrong. It's a great phrase to use because that's better than, what were you thinking? How many times do I have to tell you? Because the answer is apparently like 100 more times. And so instead of that, which puts them on the defensive, hey, I know you know that was wrong. So what do you want to do differently? Because I'm curious. Here's a good discipline tool, especially even with your older kids, is I'm curious because you just did something, called me a name, came home late, stole something from your sister's room. You just did something that actually impacts your life, right? You're going to lose stuff over that. It affects you. It doesn't affect my life. So I'm curious, what would compel you to do something that hurts you? See, now instead of like me facing off against you, Kerri, explain to me what you were thinking when you made that choice. I was thinking that I like being in trouble and you get really upset and I like losing all my stuff. There's no answer to that. But if I come alongside you and I'm like, hey, honey, you keep doing these things that are hurting you. And so I'm curious, what's going on underneath? Because I'd like to help you so you don't keep doing things that hurt you. That takes it out of being personal of like, I do so much for you. And when we were kids, we didn't have running water and you have video games and phones and everything else. See, we make it all about us and it's not really about me. This is about your daughters learning themselves and owning their own lives. It's just that you know better. That's the hard part. You can see it clearly. Like, why do you keep making these choices? But if you can step out of that, then your kids step up and you find that you spend more energy saying, you know what? I really like how you handled that situation. In fact, I'm going to give you homework tonight, Kerri, with one of your kids. Walk in and say, you know what I was thinking? I really like how you handled that situation differently than I would have done it, but you're a lot more creative than I am. And you dipped your toe in the water and you figured out, okay, that hurt a little bit. That's not the right path. But you know what I've noticed about you, honey? You learn from your mistakes and then you course correct. That's a great skill to have. And then you walk out of the room and just go drink because I'm kidding, but that's really right. But think about this, moms and dads. Wouldn't that motivate your kids more than one more stand in the doorway? How many times have I told you? Because what we're basically saying is you're a failure and you can't really be successful unless I'm on you all the time. But instead, I walk in, even if I don't fully believe it tonight, and say, hey, I was just thinking that situation, I really like how you handled that. Shows me you're growing up. And then you walk out of the room and they're like, who was that alien? And they're going to be like, I like that mom and dad. It doesn't mean you don't correct behavior. It's just that that starts to build confidence of like, yeah, I do tend to stumble at first, but then I learn and I course correct because many of our kids like, Kerri, that's how I learn in life. I don't like reading books. I have all the self-help books in the world. But here's what I do. I jump in, I try it a different way because I don't want to do it how that guru said to do it. I want to figure it out my own way. And then I learn, oh, my wife didn't respond that well to what I just said. Maybe I should go apologize and try it a different way. But knowing that about yourself is a really, and for your strong willed kids to know, hey, this is your pattern. This is the way you do things. I'm a perfectionist and I'm overly cautious. I don't know if you are,
I am.
Kerri, but if you're an overly cautious that would be a great talk to have with your kids. Hey, I need to apologize. I've been trying to impose my way of doing things on you because, look, Kerri, I don't need to know your childhood issues because we all have them. But that cautious, methodical approach that you learned as a kid, very conscientious perfectionist, served you well in your corporate career. But then it begins to sabotage you when it comes to your kids because you're trying to make them like you. So tonight you can go in and say, you know what I like about you is you're not so careful. You don't overthink things and you jump in. That's what an entrepreneur does. And I could use that as I grow my podcast. I'm going to have to jump out into that discomfort of doing Instagram videos and doing things that I don't want to do. Right. And so you could ask your daughters and your sons, say, hey, this is really uncomfortable for me. How do you think that I could do this differently? Ask them for some help. And now it's not mom and dad come in and give us 3 different lectures every day. You're asking your kids, hey, how would you do this? And now they're going to be like, mom, you could do this. Mom, you're so good at doing this. Why don't you do it this way? And you're like, that makes me really uncomfortable. And now you're showing and teaching them how to handle your discomfort. Like, I love this a lot, actually. I hope you do all these things and then report
I
back to
am
us.
gonna do them, and actually, I'm very open with probably too open with my kids, but I don't know why I have so many fears in life. Like, I was not the perfect child. I was the strong-willed. I made a lot of bad choices. My parents had a lot of patience with me, I grew up with a lot of fears. I was afraid of driving, I was afraid of heights, I was afraid of water, crazy fears. And we went to Mexico, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago at this point? And we went to the cenotes, beautiful nature. There was zip lines. I couldn't do the zip line. But then there was a point where there was this cliff that you had to jump off of. And I watched everyone do it. And I'm like, that looks like so much fun, but I can't do it. And our tour guide, as we were walking back to the car, I'm like, I'm so disappointed in myself. I can't believe I didn't do it. She's like, let's do it right now. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, come on, let's just do it. And I don't know where I got the nerve, but my kids were around me and they're like, do it, do it, do it. And it's probably one of my most favorite videos I have because I got up there, then my husband met me up there. We went to hold hands, but I was like, I can't have anyone touching me doing this. And I jumped off with my kids cheering me on. And I just feel like it was such a moment that we shared and just one of those core memories that they'll have that they helped me push through my fears. And ever since that moment, I've just had it in my head and they've been really helping me just get over my fears. Like now I used to never drive more than 45 minutes. Now I'm like driving an hour and a half. So it's like they're really making it a family thing to help give mommy the strength and just push through those fears. So I hope I'm doing some good parenting in that.
No, you're fantastic. Kerri, you're a fantastic parent. All the parents listening to this, look, you're listening to a podcast to be a better parent. Like you're a good parent. All the bad parents don't try to be better. But I would, I'd encourage celebrate some of those things like you just did. Like that's inspiring because when you said they're crazy fears, no, they're not. Like I have a fear of heights, partly why you see on our Instagram page, like Casey, our son pushes me to do more. Dad, this ledge isn't that bad. And I'm like, yes, it is. And so good for you. Like that's fantastic modeling. So I would celebrate those successes, like the driving. Those are all legitimate. It's all legitimate fears and anxiety.
I just hope I'm not pushing those fears and anxiety on them because I don't know where they came from for myself. And I'm like, I
Who
don't want to
knows?
instill it in them because I don't want them to have the same fears that they held me back, but I don't have any regrets in life because I wouldn't be where I am today. But I'm like, I didn't do this because of this fear. I didn't do this because of this fear.
I'm the same way. Like I watch Casey skiing and I watch ski videos with him. I'm like, I wish I could ski. But he's like, Dad, I've watched you ski. You are a walking torn ligament of something, and then you won't be able to hike. So our son kind of forbids me. I'm like, Case, take me up. And he's like, Dad, you're going to hurt yourself. And then you'll be in a cast for 6 months and you can't hike. Stick to hiking. So no, you're not going to put your fears on them. That's that cool part of they got to say, come on, mom, you can do it. And that means they respect you and love you, Kerri, because if they didn't care about you, they'd be like, I don't care if you do it or not. That's the cool thing when they're older. One of my favorite ways to bond with older kids is to ask them to teach you something because now, and they get to use all that wisdom that you and your husband have put into your kids. Like that's a conversation tonight to have with them is like, man, sometimes I'm just on you and I pick out like all these little things, but I look at the arc of your life and how far you've come. Man, you guys are crushing it at life. And then just go and celebrate with your husband tonight and have a drink or whatever or not, but toast each other and say, we've raised good kids. Do they struggle? Yeah, but what kids don't? Like you've done a fantastic job with your kids.
Thanks. I hope they
No,
feel
I'm
that way when
super proud of you. Just stop nagging the heck out of them.
I try. I try.
I'm kidding.
It's hard. It's really hard. I did want to bring up a scenario that a friend shared with me about her strong-willed child. So trying to get them out of the house in the morning. She has a, hey, if you're not in the car by this time, you're walking to school. Twice she's tried the, hey, you're not in the car, so I'm leaving. I'll drive one and leave the other one behind. And then the other one just refuses to go to school. What do you do in that scenario? They're too big to physically move them into the car. Walking distance to school, they can get there. But what do you do if your kid just refuses to go to school?
That's the limit of consequences, right? You can't physically make them are like, well, if you're not, you're going to go. And they're like, good. I didn't really want to go to school anyway. Thanks for the consequence, mom. So there, I think the root may be an anxiety issue. A lot of the kids we work with, strong-willed kids, it is fear of unknowns. And these are kids who are very bright, but they're often bored in school. And I don't know if this is your friend's child, but I'll throw this out there. A lot of our kids have something called asynchronous development, asynchronous out of sync. So they tend to get along better with adults, older kids, little kids, and animals. They struggle with peers. Well, if I'm that kind of kid, so every day you're asking me to go to this place where I'm going to be bored. I don't care what the teacher's talking about. I don't see that it's relevant to my life. I'm really not interested in my classmates because I think that they're dumb and stupid. Maybe they pick on me. I have to go to this cafeteria, which is really loud and everybody's talking and it hurts my brain. Well, why would I want to go to that place? So, my favorite things to do for anxiety, number one, acknowledge it. Of course, you're anxious. Of course, you wouldn't want to go to that place where you're bored and don't have a lot of friends. It makes sense to me. Because when we dismiss it, "Oh, honey, it's not a big deal," right? That's what husbands do to their wives, right? Like, "Oh, honey, you're just overreacting. There's no need to be upset," which we're really saying, "I'm really uncomfortable with your emotions, so please don't make me deal with this stuff." So instead with that child, I'm like, "Well, of course you don't wanna go to that new class. Of course you don't. I get that." Because that's validating and that's what they feel. Now, to overcome anxiety, I like to give kids something they're in control of. My favorite tool, if I was talking to your friend, is ask your child's teacher to give your child a specific job to do. Oh, hey, Jacob, I could really use your help because our kids love helping other adults, just not you as the parent. I could really use your help. You're really good at doing X. When you get to school, could you get to school a couple minutes early every week and come to my class and help me? Sometimes now in the morning, instead of, come on, got to go to school, it's, oh, mom, we have to get to school because Miss Henderson said she really needs my help. Give them a reason that's not like, well, you're supposed to go to school and you're so smart. So I can do that. That's one plan. I can give kids ownership in the morning. Now, so this will kind of demonstrate this, which is, hey, here's the deal. Every morning we leave for school at 7:22 a.m. I don't care how you get ready in the morning. I don't care what you look like, what you smell like. I don't care what's in your stomach. Just be ready in the car at 7:22. If you want to wear the clothes to school that you wore to bed last night, I don't care. You can sleep until 7:21, roll out of bed, grab the Pop-Tart that you hid underneath your bed because a lot of our kids hoard food in their room. You can get dressed in the car on the way to school. I don't care. Sometimes I let kids get ready for school in a weird or different way. And as long as they make the school bus or get in the car by 7:22, my response is fist bump. Nice job getting ready. Now, inside, I hate the way they get ready because I want them to get up and I want them to look nice and brush their hair and wear clean clothes and eat a good, healthy breakfast. I want all of those things. But the more that you try to control a strong willed child, the more that they just tend to resist. So those are the two things that come to mind. I did this with our son, Casey. I did the same thing. Hey, Case, we have to leave at 7:22. For every minute that you are late getting in the car, you choose to forfeit 10 minutes of your screen time at night. So if you're 3 minutes late, that costs you 30 minutes of screen time. I like the tough approach. If the tough approach works, use it. But some kids are like, well, how about if I'm like 20 minutes late and then I don't have to go to school? Right. So then you kind of look and see, is something else going on? And with strong willed kids, it'll usually be anxiety of some
That makes sense. That makes
getting
sense.
bullied at school, something else is going on. You know what helps a lot? Connection with our kids. If wherever they go, there's a teacher, an instructor, an adult of some kind who believes in them and who is kind of a good, safe place for them to give them something to do, that tends to get them over the hump. Like if you get invited to a dinner party or a party, but you don't know anybody there, you're not as likely to go. But if your best friend, Sarah, is going to be, oh, I'm going to be there, you're going to be, oh, yeah. Well, I don't have to talk to all the other weird people I don't know, but my best friend, Sarah, is going to be there. So we'll just talk together. So connection is actually a really good tool to get kids moving as well.
I love that. This is a great place for us to pause today. Make sure that you come back tomorrow for part 3. We're talking about why strong willed kids resist chores and what actually works, how your own anxieties affect your parenting, why their messy rooms don't define their future success, and how to stop feeling like the bad guy in parenting. In the meantime, if you want more of Kirk's incredible parenting wisdom, go check out the Calm Parenting podcast, and you can learn more about what he has to offer at celebratecalm.com. Trust me, you will absolutely love his approach as much as I do. And if you don't already follow the show, take a second and hit that follow button so you never miss another episode. Sending you so much love and light until next time on Mom Wife Career Life with Kerri Pat. Before you go, if you found this podcast helpful, I would be so grateful if you would take a minute, go on over to iTunes, and leave me a review. If you have other stressed out mamas in your life that you feel this podcast could help, take a screenshot of this episode, post it on your Instagram stories, and tag me, and let them know that they are not alone and they can create balance in their life too. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover or you just want to connect, DM me on Instagram at mom.wife.career.life. Or come on over and hang out in our free Facebook community, Work-Life Balance for Working Moms. Sending you so much love and light until next time on Mom Wife Career Life with Kerri Pat.